The title of our project is How Do Certain Sweeteners Affect Your Digestive System? This project is by Hayuddin, Amani Ibrahim, and Afshin Fatima.
The purpose of our experiment was to figure out which sweetener was best for your digestive system. We decided to do this because of the recent rise in type 2 diabetes and obesity because of sugar. Since this has become such a big problem in America, we decided to do an experiment to see which sweetener was best for your body. Our hypothesis was that when artificial sweeteners come in contact with the hydrochloric acid in your stomach, they will dissolve at unnatural rates. This can cause constipation, diarrhea, type 2 diabetes, and several other diseases. However, when the more natural sweeteners come in contact with the hydrochloric acid, they will dissolve at more ordinary rates.
Prior to this experiment, this is the research we obtained. Foods high in added sugar quickly spike blood sugar and insulin levels, leading to increased energy. However, the rise in energy levels is fleeting. Artificial sweeteners are often the cause of heated debate. On one hand, they are claimed to increase the rise of cancer and negatively affect your blood sugar and gut health. On the other hand, most health authorities consider them safe, and many people use them to eat less sugar and lose weight. When we digest sugar, enzymes in the small intestine break it down into glucose. This glucose is then released into the bloodstream, where it is transported to tissue cells in our muscles and organs and then converted into energy. Beta cells in the pancreas consistently monitor the amount of glucose in the bloodstream and release insulin to control it. This means that if you consume more sugar than your body needs right away, it could be stored for later to keep your blood sugar insulin levels constant. If your body stops producing any or enough insulin, or if your cells become resistant to it, this can result in diabetes, leaving your blood sugar levels to rise to dangerous levels. The materials used in this experiment was brown sugar, stevia, Splenda, sweet and low equal, white sugar, honey, cane sugar, hydrochloric acid, 8 beakers, a scale, a thermometer, and a stopwatch. We first gathered the materials listed. We then measured out 1 gram of sugar for each of the 8 sweeteners and 100 ml of hydrochloric acid. We got this ratio because the amount of sugar people eat on average is 9 tablespoons, and the amount of stomach acid we have is 1.5 liters. By ratioing that, we got 1 gram of sugar to 100 ml of hydrochloric acid. We then added the sugar to the hydrochloric acid and started the timer. We then measured the temperature at the start of the experiment. We used a stopwatch to measure how long it took for the sugar to dissolve and did not agitate the mixture. We observed to see if any reactions occurred. We left it for 6 to 8 hours, and after 6 to 8 hours we observed if any reactions occurred and checked the temperature again.
As you can see, these show what the sugars look like after 8 hours. On the left, you can see all of the pictures of all the sugars after our experiment, and on the right, you can see a table of all of our observations of each of the sugars. In the bottom right corner, you can see how we set up our experiment. This is all the data we recorded before and after the experiment. On the top left is the table in which that shows how long it took each of the sugars to dissolve, and then right across from that on the right is the graph derived from that data. And then on the bottom left, you can see the temperature before the experiment and then the temperature after 8 hours, and then on the right across from that is the graph derived from that. As you can see, sweet and low took the longest to dissolve, and then stevia took the least amount of time to dissolve. We didn't really see much of a difference in the temperature. It stayed relatively between 19 to 21 degrees Celsius.
The purpose of our experiment was to figure out which sweetener was best for your digestive system. The results showed us that artificial sweeteners like Splenda, Sweet and Low, and Equal dissolve at unnatural rates in hydrochloric acid. However, honey was found to be the sweetener that dissolved at the most normal rate. This showed us that honey is the best sweetener for your digestive system. According to our research, when sugar takes too long to dissolve in the stomach, the pancreas releases a lot of insulin over a long period of time. This eventually leads to a depletion of insulin in our pancreas, and they stop producing enough insulin, which can lead to type 2 diabetes and other diseases.
Data analysis. As you can see on the time graph, sweet and low has the highest dissolving time. It took 19 minutes for it to dissolve, and then stevia was the lowest and only took 4 minutes to dissolve. The difference between these two dissolving times was 15 minutes. The average time it takes for the human body to break down 1 gram of sugar is 7.8 minutes. Honey was the closest to the average time and it dissolved in 7.3 minutes. The temperature of all the sugars stayed relatively the same between 19 to 21 degrees Celsius. Honey, we found out, was the most healthiest sugar because it was the closest to the average time and it dissolved in 7.3 minutes. The more closer to the average time the sugar is, the more healthier the sugar is. And we noticed that a lot of the artificial sugars either took less than 5 minutes or more than 10 minutes to dissolve. If you take longer than 7.8 minutes, then it can lead to constipation. But if you take less than 7.8 minutes, then it oftentimes leads to diarrhea. And a buildup of sugar can happen even if it dissolves especially quickly, like stevia, and especially long, like sweet and low. And this can lead to type 2 diabetes. Thank you for listening to our presentation.